What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazika, the Fight Guys, and I'm also a Forbes boxing contributor. And I want to talk today about this Thurman Pacquiao fight. Obviously, we're going to be talking about this a lot. It is a huge fight. In fact, I believe that this fight on July 20th is the most important fight of 2019, and it's for several reasons. If you look at it from just about every perspective, you see why it's a big fight. For the first and foremost, we're talking about Manny Pacquiao, one of the greatest fighters that ever lived, one of the few living legends, active legends, who could be having the last fight of his career. I mean, I think the odds are against that, even if he were to lose. But if Pacquiao drops this fight, you have to think there is a possibility that this is it for him, that he calls it a career, especially if he were to lose by stoppage. Where else would Pacquiao go from here? I mean, I think we'd probably see something like a farewell fight after that, just because, Manny is such a fan focused type of a fighter. And I'm sure he would want to give his fans and himself something to walk away from the sport with on a winning note. But as far as being a competitive, championship driven fighter, if he were to lose this fight, this could be the last time we saw him in that capacity. So that's a huge deal. For Thurman, from a Thurman standpoint, if you think about this, before Thurman went away from the sport over 2 years ago to handle injuries and so on and so forth, there were a lot of people saying Thurman was the best welterweight in the world. Of course, he was in the conversation at that time with Crawford. I don't think you were hearing as many people saying Spence was that guy just yet, because he hadn't quite hit that point. But Thurman was in that conversation for the best welterweight in the world. So now that he's back and seemingly fighting active again, this will be his second fight of the year. He hasn't done that in years. We're seeing him take on a legend like Manny Pacquiao. Now, if you were following Thurman for years, as I've been, then you know Thurman has been calling out the legends like Mayweather and Pacquiao for years. Wasn't quite able to get those fights before. Before, he couldn't get the fight with Pacquiao because there were promotional differences. Pacquiao was with Top Rank, and he's always been with, or has been with Al Heyman and PBC, so the fight couldn't work for that reason. It couldn't work with Mayweather because Mayweather wasn't going to choose him because at the time he was too big of a risk for Mayweather. Pacquiao probably would have fought him anyway. That's just how Pacquiao is, if Bob Arum would have allowed and promoted the fight. But Mayweather and Thurman was a fight that just wasn't going to happen because Thurman was a little bit too much of a risk and not a big enough reward for Mayweather at that point in his career. But now he's close to the top of the heap. And especially he'll be considered to be at the top of the heap if he can beat Manny Pacquiao. This is a huge test for him. It started out he was the favorite, but now he's not the favorite anymore. Latest odds say that Pacquiao has moved and surged to become the favorite of the fight. Things could change by the time the fight rolls around. They could end up being an even money fight, which is what myself and fellow fight guy Peter Kahn predict will happen. But in any way you look at this, you have a legend against a 30-year-old fighter who is considered to be one of the best fighters in the world clashing. That's another reason that it makes it a big fight. Now, we haven't even gotten into the situational aspect of this fight and why that also makes it big. This fight will dictate part of what's going to happen in the welterweight division for the next probably 2 years. And let me break down how that's going to work. Pacquiao-Thurman fight. The winner of that fight is likely going to face the winner of the Errol Spence-Sean Porter fight, which should be taking place by the end of the year, right? So the winner of the Pacquiao-Thurman fight will be the sole WBA champion because Thurman is the world champion now. Pacquiao is the regular champion. All right, so Spence is the IBF champion and Porter is the WBC champion. When they fight, they will unify both of those titles. So when the winner of Pacquiao-Thurman fights the winner of Spence-Porter, we're now talking about unifying in 3/4 of the world titles at 147 pounds, which then now sets up what? It leaves the welterweight division nowhere else to go but to have a massive unification bout, which would also be a cross-promotional fight with Terrence Crawford, who is the WBO champion. Now, I know that Bob Arum and Al Heyman have been hesitant to work together here, and it's happened before. We obviously know Mayweather-Pacquiao fought in 2015. But usually, if they're going to get it together and work, there has to be a lot of money involved. And at that point, whomever emerges out of this unofficial PBC tournament of sorts at welterweight will have established themselves as the unquestioned top fighter on that side of the welterweight pond. And then you'll have Crawford. To be totally honest with you, whoever emerges out of that little mini tournament is going to likely have a leg up over Crawford. You know why? Because Crawford does not have the type of competition available to him at top rank so that he can get this level of status. So this fight with Pacquiao Thurman is kicking off a super important period in the welterweight division moving forward. So that right there is the biggest reason. And I mean, if you just think about the other fights that are coming up this year, right, that we already know about. So we don't know who Canelo is going to fight on September 14th. It seems like it's probably going to be Kovalev. Even if he were to fight Golovkin for a third time, I still don't think that fight is bigger than this fight because it just simply doesn't mean as much on as many levels. It doesn't have the potential history with Pacquiao. It doesn't have the one era meeting another era factor with Pacquiao fighting Thurman. And it doesn't have the title ramifications moving forward. That fight is purely about those two guys' rivalry. And that's not enough. Wilder's going to fight Luis Ortiz. That's a rematch, a title bout. It's a good fight, but it's not as big. Errol Spence and Sean Porter is just as important from a title standpoint, but neither Errol Spence or Sean Porter have the name recognition that Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao has an entire country. You understand? An entire country of backers that will be with him no matter what. So there is no question in my mind that the Thurman Pacquiao fight is the biggest fight of 2019. And as a boxing journalist, I'm definitely going to be there. But as a boxing fan, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I appreciate you watching as always. If you have not yet subscribed, please do. If you haven't liked this video, do that as well. And when you subscribe, make sure you click that notifications bell. I appreciate you watching as always. God bless and peace.